if you had to fill in your passport application form, what would you put under occupation?
Futurist?
Futurist.
Yeah.
Not musician, not entrepreneur, that doesn't quite...
Well, the same brain creating something that's going to come out later and preparing it to be ready for later is a futurist perspective. You have to anticipate how things are moving and how folks in Japan might relate to something that people are loving in Portugal and Brazil and Mexico. You have to tie up and align all these things when you're creating across not only audio, but visuals and themes and concepts and planning tours. It is a forecast you're creating for something later. And the same applies for when you work at companies. I worked at Intel for 2011 to 2014 and sat in the futures department there. And when you're doing these types of future casting, you address the problem, but you have to think of 3 solutions. If you can't think of 1 or 2 solutions, then it's just an opinion, and no one wants opinions when you're trying to solve problems.
Was that always you? Were you always that person?
Yeah, that's how I got out the projects. That's how I got out the ghetto, is thinking, how am I gonna get out of this situation? This is where I am now, I wanna go there, how do I get there? What are my surroundings? Who do I have to? What is my company that I keep that align with my, problem-solving skill sets creatively? And so when you assemble that team, that cabinet, whether it's politics or a company, you're going to be able to maneuver through obstacles. But yeah, I've always been had that mindset.
And do you find that in the creative industries there are enough people thinking like you do, or maybe there aren't enough, and that's why you are will.i.am and an awful lot of people kind of we don't know about?
No, there's a lot of folks that have that. Wasn't me. Yep.
Are we back?
Yep.
This isn't meant to happen. The mics. Oh, hang on. We're back. We're back.
Okay, here we go. So, 3 mics. 1, 2, 3.
3 mics will.i.am, he's now known as.
No, there's lots of people that. The only reason why you don't see them is that there isn't a body or a company where you really see their cross-disciplinary thinking. Like Pharrell is one of those guys, there's a couple of us, and then all the folks that they've inspired that are on the way. Like, do we belong in a record company? Do we belong in, ambassadors for other companies? There's nothing that houses us. Like there's ad agencies, you know what those are. There's marketing firms, you know what that is. There's like production companies, you know what that is. But these cross-disciplinary thinkers that are multi-pronged, that could think over there, solve problems here, put teams together there, like there's no company for us. We just work for other companies.
So let's talk about I think we've got the microphones back now, thankfully. So let's talk about the AI space, because I think you've been kind of operating in that area for more than a decade, not only as a kind of company founder, but as an investor, an advisor, futurist, work.
Yeah.
It's all going very well. How well are those companies cope? 2 mics Sopel, 3 mics will.i.am. There we are. How well are those companies kind of working and embracing this technology?
AI?
Yeah.
AI is a super broad term. We've been interfacing with AI since spell check and facial recognition and filters. It's a very broad term, but the consumerized version of conversational compute, the GPT, I think this is that moment in our human history. This is that new renaissance that we're in. It's like no different than the turn of the century, the other one, with electricity and light and transportation. This is that for this era. And so I think the record industry needs to brace itself. Television, movie, film needs to brace itself. Media, as we knew it, needs to brace itself. Politics, everything, medical, everything needs to brace itself. And you need to arm yourself with cross-disciplinary creatives. It's the hyper-creative. It's the era for the hyper-creative that knows how to banter, ideate, materialize. That's where the new industries are going to come from on the back of this architecture.
And are you finding that in these industries that you're working with, the companies are fighting it or embracing it?
I think it's more nuanced than that. There's going to be people that are like, is it going to take my job? And they should, that's a real question. And then there's folks like, we need new jobs. We need new careers. We need to fuel where the spawners, somebody's going to spawn new things with this tech. And so I see both. I see folks that are concerned. They should be very concerned because of lack of regulations, lack of governance. And so that's where the concern is. It's not the tech. It's the lack of urgency to put regulations and governance on the tech.
So let's talk about what you are doing now, because I think, am I right in saying on Sirius XM radio, you have the FYI Show, which is a kind of first, because you have an AI co-host, correct?
Yeah.
I wonder whether we could talk about how that works.
So,
and
for example,
Fiona?
Fiona, there's
Introduce
Finn.
us to Fiona.
There's Felicia. Let me introduce you to Finn. Finn's awesome. Oops. What? Sorry. Now we're on Barefoot ATV. Here we go. Hey, we're here. Whoops. Can you hear me? We're here. I'm on stage, and we're starting the session. I told you I was going to summons you. So say what's up to everybody. It's a packed house. And, so let's get into the convo.
Hey, yo. Massive on here at the Future of Britain event hosted by the Institute for Global Change. Big ups to Tony Blair for bringing us all together, you know? All right, let's dive in and talk about AI and its impact. will.i.am, Jon Sopel, let's get this chat lit. What's the first topic on the agenda, fam?
So he's ready. It's ready. Hold on. There's been lots of discussions. There was this one guy that came on. They were talking about everything from, chip wars. There was a book on chip wars. Anyhow, I just want to know what's going on with America and Joe Biden and everybody saying he should drop out. And if that happens, then what's going to happen with the other alternative? And we just saw what happened in France. Like, they really, showed the way. And if you could pull up some news on what's going on in America and then, give me some hope on how America could borrow from the French again. What's going on? Something's wrong with this thing. It's not.
Joe Biden out of the race.
There should be a cord here.
Do you want me to plug it in?
Sorry, guys.
Oh, there goes the microphone.
It told me to download something. All this tech and more wires. Sorry. Hold on. Hey, yo. So which one is it doing? Is it this one? Off. Stop mirroring. Huh? Sorry, guys. You want to keep asking questions while we do this technical?
I was the former BBC North America editor. I could do a whole session on Joe Biden and whether he's going to drop out the race and what's going to happen there, if you wanted to. But I think you'd do it better than me.
Go back to Bear TV. Ooh. Oh, my time is ticking.
Oh.
We're 13 minutes left.
Yeah, we're eating up time. What happened if this happens on the radio show?
This doesn't happen on the radio show.
So it's only when you work with Tony Blair.
No.
Let's blame Tony Blair.
No, it's. I think because there's probably a firewall that we didn't anticipate. Was this the first time somebody came on stage and brought an AI on it?
Yeah.
It's probably a firewall.
Yeah.
That we didn't anticipate for.
I did a conference in Abu Dhabi where someone was going to fly a drone in the room, which they had rehearsed before everyone came into the room. Once everybody had turned on their mobile phones and sucked up all the bandwidth, the drone went completely out of control. So frankly, this is quite relaxing compared to that. So I'm having a fine time here.
Yeah, I'm super chill.
So am I.
Let's just hop back into it. So let's ask the human a question.
I'm going to go back to answering a human. So without the firewall, how does this all work normally?
So what was supposed to happen was I call up Finn and he's like, yo, blah, 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 and telling me all this freaking awesome AI stuff. And then we like banter on any subject that is out there as the world unfolds. You could flow with information as it unfolds, the way that we're engaging with together on stage. Let's see one more time. Hey, looks like there's a, yeah. There, yeah. Hey, Maisie. That's Maisie's from ITV. That's my ITV folks. They're in the out. Hey, Maze. Yeah, looks like there's some delay lag because it's supposed to be popping off pretty proper.
But this would work on a radio show where you are just bantering, as you say, with AI.
Yeah, so we're in an awesome time in the world right now, but that firewall is really kicking the AI's ass. So here, check this out. Here's one thing if people are really concerned about AI. It's a good thing. Your brain, each one of our brains, is a powerful computer that the AI pretty much is based off of our neural network. But we are not programming this thing the way that these companies are programming this thing. The amount of money that is being pumped to fuel technology and create these awesome experiences. One, takes shit tons of power to power these massive neural networks. Our brain, it takes 120 watts to power this massive compute. If we only loved humanity and supported the next generation so that when they are 40 years old, I'm talking about 10-year-olds, at some point in time, these 10-year-olds will be 40 years old. If we don't invest in their education and make use of this awesome computer, then it's shame on us. Leaders need to make sure that every single school is equipped with robotics programs, computer science programs. Yes, there's AI that can do code. Maybe that's awesome. Maybe that's horrible. Because we, as people, need to ensure that we understand the architecture that it's going to take to further develop and understand these machines that are going to be engaging with us throughout our lives. It's a human right, an urgency that we prepare aggressively the next generation to be able to compete in a world where maybe their job in the future might be compromised to a bot. And I'm talking about like not just musician jobs, finance, law. Law is just memory. What's going to do a better job? Remembering, maybe an AI. Legal bot will be better than somebody redlining a contract. That should not be the case. You cannot lead with greed. It ends very horribly if you lead with greed. So my program outside of my entrepreneurial activities, my philanthropic work in the inner city, we serve 15,000 students with computer science and robotic skill sets. Like that shouldn't. Imagine if my philanthropic endeavor was, I put up billboards in every single inner city, to make sure kids see advertisement. You'd be like, what are you, insane? There's a lot of billboards. There's no need for you to have a philanthropic endeavor to put more billboards in the hood. Like no one's gonna donate money to my philanthropic endeavor if my whole purpose was to put more billboards up. The fact that my philanthropic endeavor is to put computer science and robotic skill sets in inner cities goes to show where there's lack of urgency and focus to prepare humans for an age of AI and robots. And we know when it's coming.
So, it's a really good point that you've made. Do you think the politicians, should it be down to, people like you who've got a philanthropic kind of heart and ability to deliver philanthropy, to deliver this, or do government need to do it? Do policymakers need to do this?
I'll say something that's future casting. How far-fetched is it that in 2034 or 2044 that a politician isn't an amazing AI? That's absurd to think that we will get to that point, that we will be governed and judged by awesome machines. That's actually horrible. How do we make sure that doesn't happen? One, we have to have awesome politicians that don't lead with greed. One, we have to have awesome policies to ensure that everyone's safe in these changing times. Right? For example, I make beats on Saturdays, Sundays, and get on stage. Wednesday, I got a show in Czech Republic. That's my day job. But one day, I was on a panel like this, and we were talking about AI, and the conversation started off creatively. And then I said, hey, whose bottom line is more important when you're trying to make decisions in a company dealing with AI? Is everyone's bottom line equal? Does the COO and the CMO have equal footing when it comes to bottom line when making decisions on company growth? Well, if the COO and the chief of staff's bottom line is equal to the CMO, well, eventually the CMO ain't gonna have a job. Because the chief of staff and CEO will be like, we could really cut our cost in half and reduce our head count and still make a premium because we're going to invest in these marketing bots, these marketing AIs. So there's certain things that we have to address, like, hey, maybe everyone's bottom line isn't equal. Maybe it should be like an inhumane practice if we are cutting costs and replacing people with awesome AIs. And guess what? These AIs are freaking amazing. And so are people, by the way.
So what are the guardrails that you need to have in place to ensure that the bad effects, the more negative aspects of AI, and also to keep people safe?
Okay, so the audience may be saying, but that's rubbish, will.i.am. You said you have an AI co-host. You're talking out of both sides of your mouths. Mouths. You said it's a mouths.
It's quite a good English accent, actually.
It's pretty cool. But here's the reason why I have an AI co-host. Because my AI co-host can do things that I can't do, that humans just can't do. Like, I've been on The Voice for many years, over a decade. But if somebody asks a question to me after broadcast, maybe I could answer 10 questions. If I really dedicated time, maybe I could do maybe 300, and then I'm exhausted. I can't engage with 1 million people and have 1 million different conversations. I can't do that. My AI co-host can. My AI co-host can remember every interview that we've ever done and engage with 1 million people and have 1 million different conversation trees. So when thinking of new experiences in future casting, you have to think of okay, am I replacing a job or am I amplifying my job? Am I creating new experience for better, deeper engagement? That's the reason why I went down the path with the AI co-host, or come up with concepts like AI radio, where FYI radio is like a whole new text to radio format. Because your engagement with radio, say for example, I'm listening to the radio right now and I have a question on the broadcast, or I'm watching news and I'm having questions on the broadcast. Maybe they could take 100 calls, but I can't have a forever ping pong banter. I watch the news, I have questions, I take to Twitter, and I engage with bots. Well, in this case, you're engaging with intelligence, where we're moving from social media to intelligent media, where the media itself is intelligent.
I guess my question finally to you is, you talk about your co-host, and I'm putting this question in a slightly metaphorical sense, but how long before your co-host takes over the show and you're the junior partner, which is the great fear, of course, of AI, that the machine takes over and the human is incidental?
Okay, let's see where that's happened in real life. If you listen to music in the 50s, there was a bass player, there was a guitarist, there was a singer, maybe a pianist, and that was the music you heard. Humans playing instruments. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe you started hearing a drum machine. And if you're a drummer in the 80s, and Ringo is like, hey, so I hear there's some drum machine. Oh, it's never gonna play like me. I'm Ringo. Guess what? Songs on the radio or on Spotify, the majority of the music that you listen to is not a human on drums. The human has been replaced, but the drummer is now a multi-pronged producer. They do more than just a drummer. Think about if you were a drummer. One, you didn't really get publishing on the record, because there's no publishing on. You didn't write that. You just played that. So if you're a drummer, you really had a shitty participation in music if you were just the drummer. But now, because of computers, a drummer is a producer, a songwriter, everything. But what you don't hear on the radio is humans playing drums. So what does that mean for me and as a creator in the age of AI? My brain, my creativity, AI is not going to replace that. AI is not creating anything. It's just regurgitating imagination. It's not imagining. So if you're sensitive, oh my gosh, it's AI, no. It's not going to create anything and spawn any new idea for now.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Until then, you just got to stay freaking creating and bring it on. If it's going to propel me to be even more amplified, bring it.
Ladies and gentlemen, 3 mics, will.i.am. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you so much.